All right, welcome and welcome back, fellow Shopify entrepreneurs. These are our Shopify updates for the month of February. Take a nice look at them. It's an extremely short month compared to all the other videos that we usually do. If you're new around here, we go over the Shopify changelog at the beginning of each month because I think it's very important when I'm running my Shopify stores to stay as updated on the platform as possible, come together as a Shopify community, brainstorm what to work on next, and really be informed about everything Shopify has to offer you. So as we remember, last month we left off December 20th here with major Canada Shopify updates here. So the first one here on January 15th is about checkout blocks. Checkout blocks, just a quick change here for the app. Checkout blocks is now available under apps and is no longer a sales channel. We updated the checkout block app so that it no longer acts as a sales channel. Previously, checkout blocks was listed under every sales channel publication card, including products, collections, and discounts. You'll now find it grouped under apps, simplifying how you interact with checkout blocks. So what the heck is checkout blocks? Checkout blocks is the way in which you can edit your checkout pages. So this is an interesting topic, the checkout and the checkout blocks, because the last few months, I guess it's getting on closer to half a year now. The checkout page is one of the least customizable pages on the Shopify store, and that is done intentionally because we want a safe facilitation of financial transaction information between the customer and the Shopify platform, and then eventually to you in a payout. Editing the checkout is not something that a lot of businesses should be doing, and actually Shopify always touts as often as they can that their checkout is the fastest on the internet, and that's really good for merchants, and that's really good for conversions, obviously. Checkout blocks is a way that you can edit your checkout, because for the longest time, the Shopify Plus plan Shopify Plus plan, which is Shopify's highest tier plan, has the ability to edit their checkout minorly. And the way they do this is through something called checkout extensibility and checkout blocks. Now, checkout blocks is an app that you can download in the App Store and allows you to make minor edits from the theme editor for your checkout. And we've slowly been seeing month over month small abilities for not only the Plus plan, but for any plan of Shopify store to edit some features of their checkout. So basically this is a small little update, but the topic is a large one. And we saw this updating month over month. So checkout blocks, instead of a sales channel, is now being listed as an app. So you'll see it in the apps and the theme editor and your app settings. And you'll see sales channels like your online store, your in-person device, the shop marketplace, Facebook, Google, TikTok. These are sales channels. So making that distinction, I think, makes sense, but just a tiny little update there. Moving right along, January 16th, we have a small improvement to custom storefronts. So custom storefronts is talking about developer information, headless storefronts, these sort of things. So we don't cover much developer stuff on this channel, but this update is an interesting one to look into just briefly. It says continuous cart authentication to checkout. Customers can now be automatically logged into checkout from the storefront API using a customer access token. So we see some information on this update here, but this update is talking about APIs, is talking about customer access tokens, and this stuff is more details mainly for developers, custom storefronts, and Shopify Plus merchants. So we won't get into it super detailed here. Basically what's happening here is Shopify released an update last month, I believe, where they are trying to make sure continuous authentication and a continuous login session is created for a customer. That means if a customer has a profile on your storefront and they log in with the little icon in the top right corner maybe of your storefront, they log into their account and they're browsing throughout their store and they're adding things to their cart, and then they get to checkout, sometimes it can log them out and create this ununified customer funnel. And we don't want that. That's bad for conversions, as we know. So Shopify has been releasing some updates last month and also continuing this month for a continuous cart authentication to checkout. And this goes into storefront APIs, IP addresses, customer access tokens. But if you're a beginner Shopify entrepreneur, you don't really have to worry about that. But since we don't have that many updates this month, worth looking into. Moving right along here, on January 17th, we have another custom storefront update. And again, we don't really cover API and custom storefronts, but since we don't have on this channel, but since we don't have that many updates this video, we might as well get into it. So it says each headless storefront supports unique resource publishing and order attribution. Headless storefronts created through the headless sales channel can now be used as publishing targets, and orders will be attributed to them by their given name. This update basically means if you have multiple headless storefronts. Each one can have different products and collections available too. So the main keyword here that we keep referring to is headless storefronts. To beginner Shopify entrepreneurs that are just running normal e-commerce businesses, you don't have a headless storefront. Basically, a headless storefront is a developer term for a different kind of business model. So on Shopify, you have the Shopify admin, and that directly connects to your Shopify storefront, right? A headless storefront means it's a very customized storefront, a lot of customizations, a lot of developer information, not very beginner friendly, and that's why we don't cover it on this channel. But basically, your storefront and your back end are disconnected. And so you could now, I guess, multiple headless storefronts that are connected to a back-end Shopify. And this is how you manage them, but the front headless storefront is very customized, very developer heavy, very code heavy, and these sort of things. So this update is just saying if you have a headless storefront, each one can have different products and collections available to it. Within the Shopify admin, where you previously saw headless as the name of the channel, you will now see the given name of each of your headless storefronts as a possible publishing destination. So that makes sense because we were just talking about sales channels. And so headless storefronts could also be a sales channel. And if you have multiple headless storefronts, they could each be individual sales channels. So that's kind of interesting, but we don't go into it that much on this channel again. January 22nd, we have a small improvement to the Collective app. So Collective retailers can show multiple shipping rates and transit times at checkout. This improves customer satisfaction and conversion by displaying multiple shipping rates and transit times at checkout. Not much more information as we click into the update here, but it says retailers can now display multiple shipping rates, estimated delivery dates at checkout. You can default to fetch all of the suppliers' provided rates automatically, or customize the number of rates and the descriptions to align with your store-wide policy. So if you don't know, this is talking about Collective. Collective has collective retailers, as we see here, or it also has collective suppliers, as we see here. Collective is a way that any Shopify store could be a retailer for another Shopify store. And essentially, it's just a way of expanding your product's reach. So if you sell or maybe make your own products and you sell them on your own business, you could be a supplier for another Shopify store, all within Collect. And so it's an interesting thing. It's I suppose not too new anymore, but every single month we always see many updates to Collective because it's not super new anymore, but it's also not old at all. So we always see updates for Collective. We always see updates for Flow and these kind of things, but that's basically what Collective is. January 22nd, it says the file picker is now available on variant detail page in admin. The unified file picker is now available on the variant detail page in the admin. This is probably the biggest update of this month because there's only 7 updates and this update really isn't that big of an update, but I think it affects almost all admins. So basically what's happening here is Shopify introduced this thing called the file picker. And in this sense, it's talking about the variant detail pages in the admin. So it says we've added the unified file picker for image selection on the variant detail page in the admin panel, allowing merchants to access all images in their shop within the product variant tab. So all this is basically saying is in your products on Shopify, if you sell a product that has multiple variants, you'll have individual variant listings in the variant section of your product configuration page within your admin. Now, the problem with Shopify, and I feel like this has been a problem with a long time, is that you can't assign multiple images to individual variants. Every product in Shopify has this media bay, this media gallery, which serves as all of the images to the product. But if you have variants and you want to assign individual variant images, say you have a t-shirt in red and you want the customer to select the red t-shirt and only see images for the red t-shirt, you can't really do that. They would have to scroll through the entire carousel of images from the product itself. You can get around this, of course, with some apps, but this is kind of been an issue with Shopify for a long time. This update doesn't fix that, but what this update is saying is that if you have variants down here, you can select the image and that will bring up the image gallery. Or if you're on the variant page itself within the admin, you can select all the images from the gallery instead of not having that ability whatsoever. So this is a very small update. Does that even help anything? Not really, because I think the main overall issue is that you can't assign individual images to individual variants within the same product. You can only add images to a big media gallery. You can do that with a third-party app, but I haven't seen much about this before. I think they introduced the term the file picker or the unified file picker last month or possibly the month before that. And so maybe that is an indication that that update for adding individual images to individual variants is coming. I hope so. That makes perfect sense. That makes things a lot easier. And just like that, guys, we're basically at the end of the video already. We only have 7 updates this month. Usually, if you're new around here, these updates have improvements and new features and sometimes removals, which are really interesting and really important to find. But the last 2 updates here are just about Shopify Flow. We have a new addition and a small improvement. Every single month we have information about Flow coming out. So these 2 updates say for the Flow app, there's a new feature. It says new actions for working with meta objects. Flow now offers new actions. You can get meta object entries and get meta object entry that provide more tools for working with meta objects in workflows. So this is combining 2 things, the Shopify Flow app and meta objects. And these 2 things are 2 of the most non-beginner friendly things that you really need to worry about. The Shopify Flow app is kind of a fun thing, but there's so many updates to it as they continue to develop it. It's definitely nowhere near a final product, but they continue to update it every single month. We always see updates on Flow. Flow, in its most basic sense, is an app within the Shopify admin that's made and developed by Shopify. You can get it in the Shopify App Store right now. It's a way of creating automation. So it's almost like how a marketing automation flow works. It has if conditions and triggers and all sort of things that create this long flow to do an action or to do multiple actions based on how the flow works. Because of this, you can create almost any sort of automation from scratch. But because of this, the potential is unlimited. So it's not very beginner friendly in that sense because you can kind of create whatever you want, but a flow has to work. A lot of the times if you make a custom flow, there are errors within it. It's almost like custom code. You can technically do anything with code, but you kind of need to know what you're doing. Meta objects, on the other hand, are also not very beginner friendly. Meta objects is a group of meta fields. Meta fields are a little bit more beginner friendly and they're kind of fun to use if you are trying to put product specific information, maybe in drop down boxes on your product page. That's a very common use of meta fields and maybe the most beginner friendly way of experimenting with meta fields. Meta objects is a group of meta fields. And so this update is a new update if you're really experienced with Flow, a way of configuring meta objects into flows with this update here. And then the last update here, January 30th, a little improvement to the Flow app, improved workflow run details page and search. Better search and troubleshoot your automations with more data in run flow logs. So this is kind of a fun little improvement because it gives us some nice little pictures here of the actual update, which is always nice and handy, and that rarely happens. Flow app improved workflow run details page and search. Flow now has better tools for searching and troubleshooting what happened when workflow ran. And so this is the big issue with Flow. You can create any sort of automation in the world that you can wrap your head around. However, it has to work. And if you run the flow and there's an error, this is basically what this update is telling us. Basically, before there was a list of steps in your flow. And did this step run successfully? Yes or no? Did this run successfully? Yes or no? Did this run successfully? Yes or no? And you could see sort of what step in the flow broke the entire flow. So now the update is basically just saying, there is improvements. Now you'll be able to see the data that was provided to the action, enabling you to better understand what happened. So in this example, clicking step data, you can see that the add order tag action received as input an order ID and add a guitar to tag. So here's the order ID, the Shopify URL and the order number ID, and add the tag guitar to. So since the tag actions did not return data, the output here is null. And so if this is one step in a very long, complicated flow, this is very useful to see. This is the specific issue, and this is where the output stopped, and this is what broke the flow. Here it's showing you what data is given from the endpoint or the trigger. So this is, again, the order ID URL, and this is the output from the data. So it shows us the domain, the line items here. It's kind of blocked out for privacy, but the product tags and information like that. And we can see some more details here at the bottom of some more improvements on how you can search, filter, recent runs and recent flows. We can also see some information here on the run status. So if it didn't complete fully, it would say a different status. And then you can see some more results here and these sort of things. So Shopify has this massive Shopify Flow community that's separate from the Shopify community. So if you're really interested in flows, that would probably be the place to check it out. It's very complex. It's just limitless what you can do. So weighing the pros and cons of that in your very busy schedule, it's something that you need to implement now, or something that can really help your store. You can ask yourself that question. You can look into Flow a little bit more on your own time. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we do these at the beginning of each month, and usually they're a lot more in depth. But just like that, the February Shopify update video is completed. We learned a little bit, of course, custom storefronts, checkout blocks, collective retailers, headless, file picker. So there's always something to learn, and it's always fun to come together as a community. But if you like Shopify update videos, consider subscribing. If you're interested in a once a month Shopify update video where we can all come together and learn about Shopify together, understand all the features that are on the platform, it's a great way to learn all about Shopify and everything Shopify has to offer as you run your entire business on the platform. So continuously learning about the subject, I find, is extremely important in my store success. And if you do too, consider subscribing. If you do, I'll see you in the next video.